kindergarten when your mother told you not to bite? Well, biting is back in the NHL, and Locked On LA Kings host Sarah Avampato has it covered for you coming up on the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, my pleasure right now to welcome back a familiar face to longtime listeners of the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, the host of Locked On LA Kings, Sarah Avampato. And Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so glad to talk about biting.
I'm sorry. I wish you were here under more enjoyable circumstances, but obviously Brenda Lemieux ejected over the weekend in a game for biting Brady Tkachuk of the Senators during a fight. He is now scheduled to have an in-person hearing for this incident. And first of all, you saw it. Tell me what's going on here.
I mean, this is Brenda Lemieux at his finest, is this moment right here. He's a player who the Kings acquired him to, be a little bit gritty, to be that sort of pesty player. And for the most part, since he's joined the Kings, he's played on the right side of the line. And even in the past couple of games, he's been scoring goals. His line has looked really good. And you're like, okay, like I wasn't particularly in favor of the trade when they did it, but I was like, all right, like he's contributing. He's a good bottom six guy. And then this happens. And you're like, okay, no, he really is who I thought he was. And the whole thing started because Brady Tkachuk and someone else from the Senators kind of hit one of the Kings players, I think after the whistle or after he got rid of the puck. And Lemieux, being the guy on the team who does this, went after him. I don't like you pushing around my teammate. And then it just devolved from there. And I guess that they also have a history together. When Lemieux was still on the Rangers, I believe that they got into some nonsense when he was still out there. So it's just continuing beef. And it's just, I can't believe I've had to expend so much energy on doing podcasts where I'm like, we do not bite other human beings, but here we are.
What is that book? Everything I Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten or something like that.
He needs to read that.
Yeah, I think so. Mom said, don't bite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. He's going for the in-person hearing. That usually means a longer suspension or a more than a fine when you go in person. Where do you see this going?
I mean, my guess would be in the sort of 5 to 7 range. I don't know that he qualifies as repeat offender, but he certainly has a reputation, which I'm sure is going to be taken into account in doing this. They can hand him whatever suspension they want, and I will have no complaints about it. Like, this was just immature. I know that his reasoning was that he was saying in the game that Tkachuk poked him in the eye, which is also bad. Like, don't poke people in the eye either.
Right.
But two wrongs don't make a right. Don't bite someone. This isn't hard. And the whole situation just spiraled out of control very quickly. And yeah, I would expect at least 5. I think more than 10 would be, I don't know. Like, is there even a past history of suspensions for biting? Like, there's no precedent on this one to try to gauge how long he's going to be out. But that there no complaints here. I immediately was like, this should be a thing player safety looks at. And thankfully on this one, they actually made the right call.
Now, the Kings did win the hockey game 4-2, ended a losing streak, so that had to be good. What happened during this losing streak that was problematic, and what was different against Ottawa besides the caliber of the opponent?
Yeah, I think that in this losing streak, what we saw was a lot of the Kings playing to their opponent. Like, they were letting the opponent dictate the pace of the game. For example, they lost to the Coyotes in a game that they should not have lost. It went to overtime because reasons. And you could see that the Kings weren't playing their game. They were letting Arizona dictate everything about the game. And so, the Kings are still kind of finding their identity. They don't really know who they are as a team yet, which makes it hard to play consistently the same way every game. And so that's really what we saw, was them getting away from what they know they do well, and just sort of mass confusion. Guys didn't know what they were doing, and it just didn't look good. I think that this game, it was just the caliber of the opponent. I think that had they played this game against a better team, I don't think they would have won it. But, credit to Ottawa's goalie. Philip Gustafson was great. I think the Kings put something like 40 shot or 30 some shots on him, and he was great in net. But I don't think we would have had the same result had it been, the Capitals or something that we were playing.
So you said this is a team that is yet to find its identity. After watching them for the first roughly 20 games of the season, what do you feel their identity should be?
I think that they have enough young kind of puck moving players that they, have the ability to be more creative on offense. It doesn't just have to be the dump and chase that we're kind of used to seeing and that they turn back to whenever they're struggling. We have guys who move the puck, who get the puck to the net, especially some of the younger defensemen. And I think they need to look more at that. And, this is a team that Todd McClellan's message when he talks about them is if we want the puck, and if we don't have the puck, we're going to do everything we can to get it back. And so, that heavy forecheck is something that's been lacking in a lot of these games that they've lost. But that's really, if they get back to playing the way that we know that they can, we're going to see a lot more of that, puck retrieval and doing everything they can to make life hard on the opponent.
Yeah, that's always a good way to play. How about the goaltending? I mean, it seems to be a little bit on the inconsistent side right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been very odd. Jonathan Quick is absolutely having a resurgence in net. It's like he had one off-season surgery and now found the fountain of youth, and has people. Someone legitimately was suggesting Jonathan Quick for Team USA for the Olympics, which I don't think they should be doing, but his numbers are amazing. He's in the top of goalies in the league, and it's not like he's only played a couple games. The plan for this year has always been kind of a 1A, 1B situation with Cal Peterson and have them rotate games. And, when one guy's hot, you just keep playing him. But Peterson has struggled. I don't know, I'm looking forward to digging more into what's going on with him. I don't know if it's mental, if it's the pressure of knowing that, the starting job is his to take, but he's been struggling a little bit. So, I'm hoping that at least getting that win over Ottawa will get him back on the right path. But it's been a weird year for goaltending.
How much will it mean to this team if and when Drew Doughty comes back?
Yeah, that's going to be a really great move for the Kings. There have been defensemen having to play way more minutes than they should have been because Doughty has been out. The good thing is it's given some of the young guys a chance to get their feet wet in the NHL and to see what they have. But it's going to shake things up for the better. And as assuming that he is back to what we expect from Drew Doughty and that he isn't kind of hampered by his injury still, it's going to make the blue line better and hopefully get the power play making a little more goals and less frustration.
Makes sense. Sarah, why don't you let our listeners and viewers know where they could find you on social media and where they could find the podcast?
Sure. So you can find me on Twitter at @RightSaidSarah, where I'm mostly shouting about why you shouldn't bite people. You can find Locked On Kings on Twitter at @LockedOnLAKings, where I also am shouting about how you shouldn't bite people. The show is, of course, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Sarah Avampato, not the president of the Bela Lugosi fan club. Thank you so much for joining us today. Always great to have you back on the show.
Yep.
Oh, boy.